Hey everybody, welcome again to the Crooke and Candle podcast. Looking forward to this one, although we're doing it in the evening, which I think I like it more in the morning time. What do you think?
I mean, I'm indifferent. I can do either one.
Well, the thing is, we do this on your days off.
Yeah, that's true. that is true.
I tend to, like, when I come home from work, I just want to chill out.
Right.
But anyways, you guys, we have a really interesting episode today. And it's probably on the minds of anyone that is dreaming or wanting.
Wait a minute. Did we not introduce our names?
You guys know who we are. I'm Trajan Antaeus. This is...
I'm Ozzy Antaeus. Yeah. And I got the cool guy shades this time.
Yeah, he's copying me. Maybe I can get a sponsorship for some glasses company.
Why are you trashing on my shades?
No. For me.
Oh, for you. Okay.
So I'm always in some cool shades.
Okay.
Nice. Since we're doing this for YouTube.
Yeah.
But yeah, welcome again. Again, I was just getting into a lot of people probably have the question, when is the right time to make the jump from whatever job you're doing to the creative job that you're wanting? When's the best time? And I can say this. If you go from a jobby job, let's say is not creative, you're customer service or serving stuff or something like that, and you decide you want to do something creative, if you get a job in a creative field, that makes it way easier.
I feel we just skipped a major part of the podcast we do every time.
Well,
how was your week, man? You didn't do that.
Well,
I'm sorry.
Well, it's like now we got to rewind all.
Well, yeah, let's roll it back. Let's talk about our week. Because we do that every time.
It was rainy, and it wasn't as cold. That was pretty much it. Another week in the bag. Nothing special happened this week, really, I don't think.
No? Okay.
Not for me. Just work.
All right. Yeah, okay. Well.
Working.
All right. Well,
how are you guys doing?
Yeah, I hope you guys are doing good.
Yeah, we're all trying to make it through these weird, strange, stressful times. Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
Collie, no.
Don't mind the dog. Mm-hmm. But, again, let me get back to what I was saying.
Now I sound like a dick.
You are a dick.
Okay, pause here. So, I need to explain something because I have a feeling some of you guys think I'm trying to be a dick here. That was not the case. So, I'm going to explain what happened. So, there was no discussion of this. Every episode we do, there's a format, and the format usually goes, we do an introduction of who we are, what the podcast is, what episode it is, and then we, go like, hey, how was your week and all that stuff to both of us to kind of just loosen up and get ready for talking about the subject matter at hand. And he ended up breaking the format, and he didn't discuss that with me at all. He just did it of his own accord. So I was trying to steer it back into the format we've been doing this many episodes already, and it just kind of made me look like a dick. It kind of made me feel like a dick when that was not the case, or when that was not my intention. I was not trying to just interrupt him for no reason. Personally, I probably should have just stopped the podcast and be like, "Hey, let's do this again," but I didn't. So, however, we talked about this afterwards, and we sorted it out. So again, sorry if I sounded like I was being a dick. That was not my intention. So, anyways, let's continue with the podcast.
When's the right time to jump? And like I was saying, if you go from a regular job to a job that is a creative job, but it's not, you're the business owner or you're the, freelancer or whatever. If you go from a job to another job that's really creative, like artistic director of, I don't know, Nike or something. I mean, that's a cool job, and there's no real thought into when to make the jump on something like that. But I'm kind of talking about, you want to get into the arts some way. You want to be a dancer or a painter or tattoo artist or, editor, YouTuber. When is the right time to jump? What do you think?
Well, I don't.
Ozzy?
I mean, well, obviously, when you can make a living doing what you really want to do, that would be my assumption. That being said, I'm making a living as a dishwasher, so I can't really speak on that. You can, because you're a tattoo artist.
Well, even if you are working a job, and this is what most people do. You're working a job, but you want to do something else. It could be making soap, a soap company.
Like your Tyler Durden.
Yeah. Anything. But
go into a hyposuction clinic and get all that fat for your to render it out to make lye. Burn your hand with the kissy lips.
Yeah, but I mean, I would say a lot of people run into this issue. Mm-hmm. Because you're more often than not, you're going from something that you have maybe a bunch of experience. It could be washing dishes or serving food or whatever. You've probably done a job or a couple different jobs, but it's been over a period of time, years. And then you kind of start going, I don't want to do this. I want to do something creative. And normally when you want to do something creative, there's already normally something that you kind of are creative in, but it's more of a hobby, And it's like, well, how do I turn the hobby into a paying gig? And when's the right time to take the chance to actually make the jump into a new creative?
I'm sorry, can we stop?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Collie.
She should just always go in the bedroom. Back to it. Let's say for you, you're working a job and you don't want to work that job. You want to do what you do creatively and make money. How much money do you have to make at the side hustle? I'm having a brain fart.
No, I know what you're saying. Well, my answer to that would be you would have to make enough money. You would have to be successful enough at what you're doing as your side hustle or your the thing you'd rather be doing, that you can pay your rent, you can pay your bills, you can pay your groceries, you can pay pay for your dog's groceries if you have any, Like it just really depends on the person, obviously, and that's the thing too. You have to also consider, are you single? Do you have another person you're taking care of? Do you have dogs, animals, pets? Because the more expenses, obviously, the more you're gonna have to make. But if you're alone, you got no one else.
Yeah,
then it's much more easier. So the bar for how much money you need to make won't be as much. Like say if I was on my own. If I was in a small, cheap-ass ghetto apartment, with one bed, one sink, one bed, one bath kind of deal, one kitchen. It's a small little Japanese-type space, like a podment or something like that.
Yeah.
And I'm not paying that much. Well, then, if I can make enough to pay the rent for that, pay for my own groceries, pay for my own bills, if I can cover all that doing my side gig, then at that point, I think you could make that jump. That would be my logical conclusion.
Yeah, and actually, we live in Seattle, so it is pretty expensive up here. I have friends, and I've had a lot of friends in the music scene, and I know a lot, and artists as well. But it's a place like Portland. I have a good friend, Tony Avila, in Portland. I've known him for a long time. He used to live in Sacramento. I met him in San Francisco at this place, Lucifer's Hammer. That was like a metal, Tuesday night metal show in San Francisco. And yeah, it's been 20 years. But what he tends to do so that he can fund his music and all this stuff is he'll get a house that's got 3 or 4 bedrooms in it and then find other creatives. So, I mean, over the last couple of years, it seems like every year someone will move out and he'll put it out there. Hey, I got a room open. And then someone will move in. And then a year will go by and someone will move out. But the rent is like $600 a month for your room, which makes it way easier.
Yeah.
You know, it's definitely, you're right. It's definitely going to be harder if you have a lot more responsibilities.
Yep.
And so there's kind of levels to it. If you're younger, you can take more chances. You have less responsibilities. But with, over the last 2 years with COVID, a lot of people, because of, the jobs that they were in, all of a sudden they weren't working, and it gave them, and there was no distractions either. There was nothing to do. So a lot of people kind of thought about, is what I'm doing what I really want to do? And if I'm doing this thing, because like my thing is I want to build something that is pandemic proof. I want something where I can pretty much live anywhere and do this thing. Possibly maybe some things online to have income to where, because, anyone that's listening to this that had a job, you could be a food service. I had a lot of friends that worked at venues, and venues got hit hard, music venues, because restaurants opened, stuff like that, but they were still not allowing people to, go to shows.
Yeah.
Which is just recently they started doing that. So a lot of people that had creative jobs and a lot of people that didn't have creative jobs, everything stopped. Everything stopped.
Well, and you have to make a distinction between creative jobs where you need to be in a crowd of people versus you can just do something, like say if you're doing YouTube for a living.
Right.
That's a very big distinction. If you're talking about like I'm in a rock and roll band and I make my living just traveling around and playing to live shows.
Yeah.
And I live off of people, paying at the box office. Like that's a very different thing. Or if you're a comedian or something like that.
But I mean, wait, there's the bartenders that serve at the venue.
Well, yeah.
You have the sound engineers, the lighting people. There's a lot that goes into a venue.
I wouldn't consider being a bartender a creative thing, though.
Okay. I hear what you're saying.
Well, I mean, I guess it's creative in a different way, but
yeah, I'd say like, listen, you could be like, man, I really want to go to Hollywood and somehow be involved in the movie industry. You may end up being a caterer that's on set all the time, serving food. Is it a creative job? It's in a creative field. All the people around you are creative. So in a sense,
yeah, sure. But at the same time, like that's still a different part of an industry. Like, so you can consider like being a chef a creative thing, but even then you're splitting hairs at that point, because really at the end of the day, most people would just look at it as food service, and that's what that is in a way, and it requires
they call it the culinary arts.
Yeah, and I'm not knocking people who do that. I want to make that very clear.
Yeah,
I'm just trying to make a distinction, because
then like, I guess I'm kind of thinking of when I think of a creative job, again, there is distinctions, there's differences.
Sure.
Because you could end up working at Rockstar Games and you're the mail guy. And you're going and giving people mail and, but you work at Rockstar Games. Or you could work at HBO and you're an assistant. You get coffee for your boss, blah, blah, blah. But again, in that instance, I guess we are kind of splitting hairs, because I would call that a creative job, in that you're working in a creative industry. What do you think?
Well, if you're talking about, I think we're talking about two different things, because you're talking about like doing, like you're talking about because you like the catering example, like, oh, I'm catering for these actors on a set or something like that. Well, yeah, you're, I guess, in the space where people do their craft, but at the end of the day, you're more paying your dues, doing something completely different that just happens to be related to it in a sideways sense.
And I think it's a safer thing.
Yeah,
I think
right.
what I'm really wanting to talk about is the part where it's unsafe.
Well, yeah, exactly.
You're in control. The insurance, the business license, all the things you have to figure out to actually have a business. So there's levels to it for sure.
Sure.
That's why I was saying going from one business. If you went from you're working at some food service place, and then you're like, man, I hate this, da 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 da. But then you see a job for catering on set at wherever, CBS or even Viacom or whatever, and so all of a sudden you're around a lot of creative people. There's that, but yeah, I would say, sure, there's the money part, but where you're like, oh, I want to be able to make, and this is a good rule of thumb, I want to be able to make the same money I'm making at my normal job that pays all of my bills. So at first you have the normal job. It's paying all your bills. Then you start the side business, the thing you really want to do. And that starts making you money. So you're making more money. You're cool, awesome. But really what you want to do is get to a point where you're making on the side business the same amount that you're making in your regular job, and do that for 6 months. If 6 months, then go for it. And that's the totally 100% safe way of doing it. Most people don't necessarily do that, though. I think it's kind of like having a job that you think is secure, and then all of a sudden it goes away, and then you're like, shit, I have to make this money. I have these responsibilities, and so it's kind of the same thing. You could be working something and it's safe and everything, and then you decide you haven't done that 6 months. You don't have enough time between that and the thing you want to do to make that other thing make you as much money. If you had more time, you believe that you could. And that's where it comes to the point where you're like, I believe that if I quit this job and I can put 100% effort into this, I can make the money.
I want to segue that into an anecdote, because that actually explains something that I did.
Mm-hmm. Go for it.
So I think you remember this, but remember when we were living in the dollhouse? Mm-hmm. So that was around the time 2020 rolled around, and then the pandemic started. Like, and we were hearing the news about how many people were starting to get infected and all that, and then the lockdowns happened. Well, what happened was I ended up getting let go from my job. What was it? A deep dive.
Oh, at the Spheres.
At the Spheres.
Yeah.
And
Amazon Spheres.
And I was doing my whole YouTube thing on the side, and that was just kind of my hobby. And then I got let go. I got unemployment from that, and I was making decent money. Then there was the stimulus checks and all that. And there's a reason I'm mentioning this, because at that point I decided, you know what, I'm making enough money doing nothing. So why don't I invest some of this money I'm getting, this capital from unemployment, into the YouTube thing? Like I paid for like a vidIQ subscription to help with my analytics, and looking for the best practices, doing a lot of studying. Just trying to, figure out what the best practices are for like hashtags and search ranking, SEO and all that stuff. And I was doing this for over, a year? Mm-hmm. Here's the thing though. It didn't work. It didn't work at all. It didn't work for me at all. And that's now granted, I learned a lot from that experience, But that's the thing. The reason why I'm telling this story is because I ran into the problem that a lot of people run into, which is they'll take that plunge. Now, granted, I was lucky in that I was making unemployment, so I was just getting free money. So I kind of had that cushion until I didn't have it anymore, and then I had to find a job. But that was a very deflating time when I was like doing everything I could, or I thought I was doing everything I could. And then I just didn't see that much results. I saw some results, but then it just kind of went down a spiral where I was losing subscribers and all that stuff, and it wasn't working out. Now ultimately, I learned that the reason why that didn't really pay off in the end was because I was very inconsistent on the kind of content I was making. Like I was doing one thing, and then that got some views. So some people subscribed to the channel for one type of content. Then I started doing this totally different type of content. And these people that subscribed to me for the other content was like, what the fuck is this? I didn't want to see this.
Yeah.
But I didn't put that together in my head. I just thought I could make whatever I want that I felt like making. And as long as it was really good, the subscribers would want to see it. And that's not how it works. So I ended up making a huge mistake. And in fact, I ended up rebooting that channel as Accept. Which I'll put a link to it in the video. And I've been noticing a lot more different sense of growth. I've only made a few videos on that currently. I think there's only like 3 or 4 videos. But I've been noticing that people have been subscribing and coming back to it. And the one thing I wanted to made sure to do was to be consistent with it. And, so ultimately, yeah, again, lesson and moral of the story is you got to have a plan B, at the end of the day. Like if you're going to quit your day job to focus all your time, first off, make sure you're well off. They can pay for your bills and your rent for the period of time while you're not working a normal job.
Yeah.
And then make sure you do everything you can to make sure that that pays off for you. And if it's not paying off, you need to have that plan B.
Yeah. I would definitely say I agree with you 100%. The thing, like any business, and whether it's creative or not, I think it's like something like 90% of them fail. So which means, and believe me, it trips me out when I walk around, like over by where you work.
Yeah.
I'm walking by and there's a sock store.
Yeah, there is. I know what you're talking about.
And there's just a kind of hip baby store.
Yeah.
And, I was walking up 24th the other day and I walked by just this place that just bakes like muffins and, croissants, and it's a bakery.
Yeah.
And I'm like, and I was putting it together. I'm like, so someone, perhaps they went to school, perhaps they didn't, the person that, is like, I have this great idea. Everyone needs socks, right? We could open a custom sock shop. We get weird socks from all over because there's people out there that love that shit.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
And you might need an investor or take out a loan or something like that, and you open up your sock store. If you're not prepared, because most of the time, people that are in business and they're doing it successfully, if you ask them, they're like, oh, I tried this, failed. Tried that, failed. Tried that. That kind of worked for a little bit, and then the market crashed and I failed at that. So then there's someone like you, you have something that you really are focused on.
Right.
So to me, and I've always looked at it like this, when you're like, okay, I'm going to try this, and you go for it and it doesn't work out, then you're like, dang it.
Right.
And then you kind of reset and do a little research and, and let me give it another go, and you give it a go, and, so although you're not trying different businesses, you're going through the same process where you try and it doesn't work. So you hold on, look back to the drawing board, like Wile E. Coyote trying to get that goddamn Roadrunner, and give it another go. No, that's not working, you know? And so you're going through the process of kind of making your mistakes and learning from your mistakes.
Yeah. It's kind of funny too. Like when I mentioned that story, because I actually remember back when I was living in California and I was living with my mom still. Living with my mom still. I'm sorry, I'm marble mouthing my words. Like there was a channel I actually did get 10,000 subscribers at one point. And there's like one video I made where it just got me in the algorithm and was suggested to so many people. And I just managed to hit it right. But the thing that ended up causing me to delete that channel was because one, I just didn't have I had a shitty laptop and I wasn't making any money. Well, actually, there was a point where I did actually get partnered with an MCN at one point. What was it? It was not Curse. I think it was like Maker Studios or some subsidiary of Maker Studios, which I believe they rebranded as something else, or they're just gone. I don't know what happened to them. But I only made. Want to know how much money I made off of my videos? $50. That's all I made. And I almost could have made another 50. I could have made $100, except I never made any more views after that because I tried to make more videos and my computer was crapping out on me, so I couldn't make any more videos. And so,
ouch.
And that really, and especially at that time, I was like, what? And I don't even think I was even 20 yet.
Yeah.
So I was trying to make more videos and I was trying to explain to people like I can't really do this right now because my computer crapped out on me, and like next thing I know, I just saw all these people turn on me. And you know, like,
where's your content?
Yeah, well, we'll just go somewhere else. Fuck you then, you know, something like that. And I'm like, and that was just too much for me to handle at the time, so I deleted it. I wish I didn't do that, but just so I can have a piece of history to keep around. But I did actually have some success. It just didn't, you know, I just didn't have the means to nurture that further at the time. Because like right now, in fact the podcast that this is being edited on, we have a business computer that we use for all the rendering purposes of all the video and all that stuff.
It's crazy fast.
Yeah, it's a really fast computer. And eventually I want to upgrade it even further, but that's for another day. But now the real issue for me, especially with this shit, like the podcast, because I'm doing all the social media stuff. I'm doing all the hashtagging and SEOs and titles for the podcast and all that stuff. And really the hard part is trying to figure out how do I manage to get a foothold on the algorithm or the search engine results, so like my video shows up or my podcast shows up for people to click on. Like for example, I've been making sure recently to take with my 360 camera, like taking photos so I can make thumbnails. You know, and it's like I'm trying to do better thumbnails and stuff like that. And you know, right now it's just kind of that experimentation phase of just trying to figure out what works and what doesn't. And if it's not working, we'll try something else.
Well, it's funny because as you're talking to this, I know we have a second part.
Yeah.
But we have a list of things we wanted to touch on. And that almost, what you just said, almost would segue perfect into the, you know, for analog artists, how important is the digital world in these days.
Are we touching on that?
Let's just go ahead. Because,
Okay,
I mean,
all right.
I would say that is, so again, when do you make the jump? It's a tough one, but you have to not just have a passion for it. That's not enough. You have to be educated. Yeah. You have to know a lot about how to actually run a business and stay consistent and, you know, keep putting out whatever product it is that you create. But especially now, because I would love, like, galleries are open and I'm planning on going to a couple galleries soon, but galleries have been closed for a long time. And there's been a lot of fear around going to places. Wait, I got to go someplace where it's indoor and there's other people.
Yeah.
Which everyone's got fatigue around. We do want it to all go back to how it was. But again, touching on going from one thing to something that's creative, how important is it to be on social media? I could just say I'm 50. I hate social media.
Yeah.
I mean, I use it, but it's something that I have to fight around because I'm like, I have to do this.
Yeah.
Because it's what is being done.
Yeah. Actually, it's kind of funny that we're bringing this up because this was actually not the topic we're going to segue to, but that's fine.
Let's just go.
But that's fine.
Yeah.
I actually think that's okay. I think it segues perfectly. In fact, another anecdote, I remember when we were living in Portland, actually. Remember that? Remember?
Yeah.
Because I remember there was a period when I was doing the Zombies Skeleton Knife Fight podcast, and you were talking about making a website for yourself and all that stuff and to promote your shit. And one of the things I told you was you need to get on social media.
No, this is 2014.
Yeah, this was years ago. So,
But it seems like
even
yesterday.
Then, yeah, but even then, like at that time, that was still, what I was saying was accurate.
Yeah. Well, and it was funny because I'll just give you guys I'm a painter.
Yeah.
So the way that you did it, and you were 100% right. Mm-hmm. Things hadn't quite changed in the art industry.
Right. But you're from a different era
in galleries.
So.
Yeah, but what it was they want to see you have a website.
Right.
They were accepting not even full portfolios, just giving them a disc.
Right.
Okay. As part of your, hey, this is who I am. I'd like to be represented by you. So that's the way I was going. And you were like, yeah, I don't think you need that. You could just do social media. And now it's changed in the art world. Galleries, before anything, before they look at your website, before they look at your portfolio, really, they're like, how's your social media presence? Because they want to know that there's already an audience for what you're doing.
Yeah. And to kind of, spoilers, how important is social media for artists today? Very. If you don't take advantage of social media today,
you're a stupid dumbass.
Seriously, if you don't do that and you're not ahead of the curve, or not even ahead of the curve at this point,
just on the curve.
On the curve.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you're not even doing that right now, you're an idiot. You need social media. You do. Even when I was making the social media shit for this shit, I don't want to use Facebook. I don't want to use fucking Twitter. I don't want to use those things at all. I think they're shit. Or I hate them. I don't like using them personally. I've had some pretty bad experiences with them, but they are necessary. The fact of the matter is they're a necessary evil. Now, I'm not going to get into my opinions on the platforms themselves. You can make whatever opinions you want. If you like Twitter and you love it with a passion, good for you. That's cool. I don't, but I do see the value and using these platforms to expand your audience, and that is super important because especially today, because we live in a different age where going back to you, because you come from a different era where to get yourself out there you would say if you wanted to say announce that you're playing at a certain venue or something like that for a rock and roll band. What do? You go to fucking Kinko's, you make some flyers, you get a staple gun, go to all the the foam poles or whatever, and you staple that shit all over the city. That was your fucking.
That was how you did it.
That's how you did it.
As a matter of fact, my friend Tony, that I was talking about earlier, he does graphic art stuff for this graphic company, right? And we were talking, and one day I'm like, hey, man, how did you get into that job? Like, did you go to school for it and blah, blah, blah? He goes, no, man, remember way back in the day, we'd have shows, and he's like, I was in bands, so I would, whatever show, he goes, there was the original cutting out the logos of the different bands, taping them to a piece of paper, writing in the information you need, and then putting it on the Xerox,
the scanner, yeah,
and copy it off.
Yeah.
And that's how he did it. And then because of the computing age, he's like, wait a minute, I can take the logos and make them cleaner and put them, do it on a computer and then print it out.
Yeah.
And so that's how he actually ended up in that career.
Right.
Was making flyers.
Right.
So yeah,
man.
Things have changed. And again, it's so strange because literally the last 20 years have been just off the charts, like the changes that have happened in our world and the way we do things. And that's the thing. You can't expect success. That's not to say it wouldn't happen, because there's always a story. Oh, so I was eating a sandwich and someone discovered me, or some painter was a garbage man and a kind of recluse, and one day someone somehow was walking past their apartment and the door's open and it's an art director of some gallery, and they just glance in and there's all these paintings all over the place.
Right.
Because that's what he did on the side just for himself.
Yeah.
And the person becomes famous.
Right.
So those things can happen.
Yeah, but
the reality is, if you want it, you got to go get it. You got to promote yourself. You got to get in front of people's eyes.
Yeah.
So that's the way that you do it these days.
Well, yeah, and it's not just the promotion that's important too. It's also having a good product to begin with. Because if you try, in fact, I'm trying to remember who said it, but there was like the guys from Simple Pickup on YouTube. Like, they were interviewed by somebody about promoting yourself on the internet or something like that, and one of the guys that did that channel gave a really good answer, and he was like, well, here's the thing, promotion doesn't matter if your product sucks. The fact of the matter is, you can have all the money you want putting into advertising and all that stuff and getting your foot in the door, but if all they see, if all the audience that sees your ads sees is a shit product, they're not going to want to have it anyway, and they're just going to tell everybody else, hey, don't fucking consume that product, it's bad. Yeah. So it's a combination of things. Like, you not only need to promote yourself, but you also need to have a good product worth promoting. And then on top of that, you need to be, you need to nurture whatever audience you have. You need to nurture those audience. In fact, one of the things I do, like just with my YouTube channels. By the way, I want to give another shout out to Top Cat, because he actually responded to another comment on our last podcast. Actually, need to pull it up and I'll read it, because I love you, Top Cat. I love the fact that you actually go to our channels and watch our podcast and actually comment. That's really important. Oh yeah, he's like, welcome back, nerds. Cat face. Yeah, so thank you, Top Cat.
Because we were missing in action.
Yeah, we were
for a couple weeks.
But yeah, but just what I just did, I'm nurturing my audience.
Yeah,
and that's super important. One of the biggest pieces of advice I learned, and just even recently, in the past few years, because there were times where I wouldn't comment or reply to every comment that I get. Now there's some comments I won't respond to, if someone
just straight trolling.
Yeah, straight trolling, or just they post a fucking incendiary thesis paper on how my video sucks. I'm not gonna respond to that. That's a waste of time. Don't do it. I'll just read the first few lines, and then I'll be like, okay, I get the gist of this. I'm not responding to this bullshit. Yeah. But
you think I suck?
Yeah, but if it's a good comment, I make sure to respond to them, because the one way to turn your audience away from your product is to make it seem like they don't exist to you. Because if they don't feel like you're noticed, especially if you're a small channel, there's no reason you shouldn't be commenting on the comments that respond to your video. Or whatever you do, or your comments on your tweets or your Facebook posts or whatever. Because if you're trying to promote yourself, you want to make sure that the audience that you attract know that they exist. You let them know that they exist. Yeah, that makes them feel good.
You want them to, you want them to kind of feel a little special.
Yeah, important.
And I mean, over the last couple of years, we've seen a couple different industries, movie industries, comic industries, where I don't know what was going through their heads. Maybe they thought they were too big to fail, but they literally started treating fans like, screw you, don't care.
Oh, dude.
But you just give us your money anyways. And people started just later. Now the comic industry is in free fall right now.
Yeah,
no one wants to read
dude.
any of that stuff.
Oh, did you hear about that comic? Like on Twitter, there was like this comic of Superman where they discovered a panel where like Superman lost his powers and was like captured by some Russian agents, and he was in a prison cell.
Yeah.
I'm like, holy shit. Like, and everyone who reacted to that, like, dude, what the fuck are you guys doing? They're like, oh, you're just bigots or some shit.
Well, it was, and again, there's these stupid arguments about like, oh, woke or non-woke or whatever. But, you know, actually, it's a Gundam. He did a great one, and he was sitting there like talking about the comic industry, and he's like, these comics are preaching to you. They're not giving you even a good story. Like Superman and his super boyfriend are out like protesting global warming.
Oh, you also have the X-Men that are eco-terrorists. I like saw one clip where I guess the bags were left in the ocean and I think a dolphin died. So then like some mutants went to like a store and just killed a guy randomly. You have gay Superman protesting global warming. The one dude who could do something about global warming would rather protest with his Asian boyfriend. Sounds like a gay thing to do to me.
He's like, this guy's got super freeze breath.
You can fly. You have X-ray vision.
Yeah,
You can lift the entire Earth.
Yeah. Well, and heck, Superman 3, the movie, I mean, he literally, Lois died.
Oh, yeah.
And so he freaks out, and the Earth's spinning one way, and he starts going the
spinning it the
opposite
other way.
direction,
Yeah.
and he reversed time.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, and actually bringing it back to the Superman being violated and like the reaction to that. I totally understand the reaction that fans of Superman had when they saw that, because it's like, first of all, one, it's just super disrespectful to the character for multiple reasons. One, Superman is an iconic figure in comics. You know, he's like fucking Mario. Like, it's like, dude, everyone knows who Superman is. And even if you don't like the character, you recognize him. He's important. Yeah. And the last thing you want to see is him on his fucking knees, bent over with a dude behind him.
yeah.
Well, actually, the apparently they don't show anything like that, but it's suggested.
Heavily implied.
It's heavily implied he was. And it's like, that's not, that'd be like if Nintendo decided to make a Mario game where he was by Bowser. It's like, no one wants to see that.
Yeah.
That's really stupid. And then when people get mad about that, like, what the hell, Miyamoto? What are you doing? Oh, you just fucking hate our games. You're haters. You know, like, you can't treat your audience with disrespect. You have to understand, like, even if your audience has because here's the thing, I will admit this, there are definitely fans that get a little too incendiary and they get a little bit too mad and they say things that are really over the top. I will agree with that.
Well, they don't do anything different than people that go to ball games and drink some beer, and someone goes, your pitcher sucks, and all of a sudden there's a fight happening.
Right, exactly. Yeah, it sucks when that shit happens, but that's not everybody. And the fact of the matter is, there are a lot of people that will. You gotta read the room. In fact, G4 recently, G4 TV recently got in this issue recently. I'm not gonna go over all of it, but yeah, there was this situation where they were like doing some review, or like they were talking about the multiplayer for Red Dead Redemption, and then what was her name? Indiana Black, like, who
I know.
She fucking went on this rant unprompted about sexism in gaming, which I don't believe that's why she was doing that. Because if you actually, I might interject a clip here just so you guys know what I'm talking about.
But I actually want to talk about something so much more important than Red Dead Online: sexism in gaming. In joining G4,
This is not where I thought we were going,
I know,
but I'm
you
here.
had
I'm
no
here.
idea.
I'm listening.
Yeah.
In joining G4, I was ecstatic to be part of something that I grew up watching as a child. But every time G4 is brought up in various channels, even in this YouTube channel, we have the chat in front of us. I can see you. Without a doubt, there will be backlash because I'm not as bangable as the previous host.
But yeah, there's like literally this clip of her going off on people in the chat of their stream for comparing her to like people like Olivia Munn and Morgan Webb.
Oh, didn't she say something like, "Oh, the reason they're mad at me is because I'm not as bangable"?
Yeah, I'm not as bangable as them. And
It's like you haven't really thought that maybe you just got a shitty attitude and
yeah, exactly.
You
And,
just-
and that's the thing. Even with that, it's like the thing that's funny about that whole situation is I don't even think that was about sexism, that whole rant.
Yeah.
Because she wanted to make it seem like it was, but it wasn't. Not really. It was more about the fact that she was projecting her insecurities about how people don't like her. And listen, honey, or not even just, I'm not even going to address her personally. Because at the end of the day, I think this isn't just a issue with her. It's issue with a lot of people in media and in business even, where it's like the worst thing you can do is generalize your audience in a very negative and uncharitable light.
Yeah.
Because if you do that, if you do the broad brush technique with everybody and you paint them a certain way, even if they're not doing that, they're going to leave.
yeah.
And right now, G4 TV is in free fall because this one girl on an unprompted rant decided to paint a lot of people as sexist, even though most of them aren't.
Yeah.
And it's just that, and really it just came down to her insecurities and it had nothing to do because it really wasn't an issue about sexism. And yes, are there sexists in the game industry? Sure, absolutely.
There's sexist,
But there's sexists everywhere. And all you know how you deal with that? Call those fuckers out. If there's blatant sexism, call it out for what it is. But not everyone's a sexist.
Yeah.
Just as not everyone's a fucking racist either.
Yeah.
You know? So and I'm in fact, this is like the most incendiary I think I'm getting on this podcast. But because I'm not trying to make too many, my point ultimately though is that you know, because yeah, it's very important to have a presence online, but you have to have a good presence. You got to make sure you're likable. You got to make sure you have a good product to sell, and if you have an audience, nurture that audience. And then on top of that, if your audience starts to turn a little bit and go, "Hey, we don't like what you're doing with this," don't fucking respond to them. Go, "You're fucking haters."
Yeah.
Dab. Like, don't do
yeah.
that shit. No one likes that.
Yeah.
You need to be likable.
Yeah.
And if no one likes you, no one's gonna. You're not gonna succeed.
Yep. Yep. And we're getting close to the end. I'm just going to definitely retouch on something
Okay.
because I was thinking about it as you were talking. I'd say the best way to... There is no 100% way of knowing when to make the jump.
Right. Well, it's about risk.
Yeah, there's risk. And so if your goal is, let me just take mountain climbing, for example. If your goal is to go up K2 or Mount Everest, you don't just go and show up and try and do this.
Yeah, exactly.
You have to condition yourself. You have to do a ton of practicing on other slopes. Normally people that, go for Everest or whatever, it's part of the thing that they do. And they didn't start there. They started other places. They started smaller. They got prepared. And so eventually you're ready, but you don't know what's going to happen. There's no 100% way of knowing everything's going to work out okay.
Yeah.
But what you do is you show up physically and mentally prepared, and you show up with all the gear or things that you need to do this job of getting up this hill. And then you have to kind of go for it.
Yeah.
And I would say it's better to, even if you have that unsurety, you're not sure, sometimes you just have to go for it and find out who you are and what you're made of. and go for it. That's really it.
Yeah.
But you do have to be prepared. You have to prepare yourself for the amazing struggle that is being a creative person in this world today. And with that, again, there's older people that are getting involved in more creative industries, and they're having to do like me, where I'm like, I got to learn how to use Instagram for more than just posting photos.
Yeah.
And I have to learn how to, run ads and figure out the business side of Facebook so I can do all this stuff. It's not my wheelhouse. I was not born with computers. So it's very, it's a little difficult for me, and I definitely have a little bit of just straight up resistance to it. Because it feels like it's not really of my era.
Right.
It was, but again, sitting there playing Pong on your Commodore 6000 or whatever it was.
Commodore 64.
6400, yeah. Or, whatever was out at the time, an IBM with the green screen and the green cursor, and you're sitting there playing Pong, and that's pretty much it. You have to get it to do anything, you got to throw in a floppy and actually program it, and that stuff sucked, So,
yeah.
And, back in the 80s, there was that movie War Games, and the computer, how'd it go?
Would you like to play a game of chess?
Welcome, Professor Falcon. Would you like to play a game? And I was always like, man, I'll do the computer thing when I can just talk to the computer. And then it got to a point where, even as I can just think back to my first art Studio Absu, going over to my friend Caleb and Stephanie's, and they had another couple that were friends. I'm totally blanking on their names right now, but they had computers. But when you'd go to do a Google search, you would go, they're like, oh, to do a more advanced search, you put TV, flat screen, this, that, this, to put enough keywords in so that it would help you find it. And then it got more advanced to where you could just be like, how do you blah, blah, blah?
Right.
And it comes up,
Yeah.
I mean, I was at the tattoo studio today, and we have Alexa and we have a little Google speaker.
Yeah.
And I said, I was leaving, so I turned off the Alexa, which my phone was plugged into, playing music. And I'm like, she's like, I don't know how to get the apprentice. Like, I don't know how to get this other speaker to work. I'm like, you have to say, hey, Google. And she's like, well, I'd like to listen to some music. And I'm like, okay, hey, Google, play some hip hop that doesn't suck. And all of a sudden it goes, we found a YouTube channel, hip hop that does not suck, playing now. And I was like, wow, that actually worked.
Holy shit, that's pretty funny.
So things are so freaking advanced.
Yeah,
my computer doesn't really talk to me, but there are devices that talk to me, and I can talk I need to, boil something, and I'm like, hey Siri, set a timer for 5 minutes or whatever, and I walk away, and so things have changed to the level where it is necessary. And even, my oldest friend, who I just talked to the other day, Dino, who I've mentioned on this podcast before, he finally has a smartphone. Okay. For a long time, he didn't have a cell phone, and then he got a dumb phone.
A dumb phone.
I think it accepted texts, but if you sent him a text, he would ignore it.
Okay.
He's like, if you want to talk to me, call me. And so I'm sitting there talking about cell phones, and he's like, yeah, well, they track you and this and that, and it's just not the way it used to be, I remember the phone was in your house, and it would ring, and if you walked out the door, no one could get in touch with you, da-da-da-da-da. And that's how it used to be, and I miss those days. And I'm like, yeah, but why are you deriding new technology? Because literally, if that's what you're doing, then really, you should use the Pony Express to send your messages, because that's how we did it way back in the day.
Well, and my response to that too was like, well, if you if you're deriding new technology and the incorporation of that technology into everyone's daily lives in order to function, and you want it to be just like it was back in the day, well, guess what? The best option for that is get off the grid and live in the wilderness.
Go hide in a cave.
Yeah, go live under a rock like Patrick Starfish.
Yeah.
Or Bikini Bottom under a sea or whatever.
Go get yourself a Ted Kaczynski fucking little shack.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, just
up in the woods.
Yeah, pretty much. But
that's pretty much what you got to do.
But yeah, in fact, that's perfect because it's like, because even you, like with social media, you didn't want to use it. You didn't.
I didn't.
Because I was telling you should use it, but you were so against it. But now, of course, the times have changed. Yeah. Now you have to, like, even like the bio.link thing that we have, like you can just, there's an app for that. You can pull that up on your phone. Like, hey, where do you find you? Boop. There. I'm right there on all these links. You can click any one of them. And it's like, there you go. Yep. In fact, I think there's like a thing someone made recently called it was like a replacement for like what are those cards called again? That you hand them to people like with your number on
business cards.
Business cards. Yeah. So like someone actually did something I thought was really smart, where it's like this. It's like this card with a QR code on it or something like that, and then it takes you to a website with that has all these links to your socials and everything.
Everything. Yeah.
So and it's like that's genius, and it's like that's how it is now because it's like that's how you if you want to get yourself out there, you have to be on a lot of sites. And now it's becoming much more easier to be able to do that. So there's no excuse to do it. Oh, well, I don't want Google to look at my data or something like that. Okay, well, then just don't do it.
Yeah.
But if you want to be successful at this point, it's like, well, you got to play the game in order to get results.
Yeah, especially in Western.
Especially if you want to be at the top of the pack, you want to win. You got to play the game.
This is true.
That's what you got to do.
Yeah. And with that, we are going to end this episode.
Episode 10.
Episode 10 of Crooke and Candle Podcast. Thanks for listening to us. And we're actually going to, the thing we were going to talk about, we're going to talk about it in another podcast because it's really cool.
Yeah, it was supposed to be a story about an experience he had recently.
Yeah,
but
so it's about to learning when to say no as a creative person.
Yeah, that'll be for the next episode.
Yeah.
So we'll do that.
We took you on a little ride today.
Yeah.
It's kind of free form almost. But yeah, you guys stay up. Can't wait to talk to you again. Do we need to do any plugs?
Yeah, just for our social media and all that stuff and where you can find us. We have bio.link/Crooke and Candle. That's without the ampersand, and Crooke is spelled with an E at the end. And it has all of our links to our Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, all that stuff, as well as our social medias for Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter.
And there you go. You guys have a good day, evening, whatever, and we will see you next time. This is Trajan Antaeus.
And I'm Ozzy.
And we're signing off.
All right,
peace you guys.
Later.